Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel, Family Stories. I hope you enjoy the content, get lots of pleasant emotions, and have a fantastic time. Let's get started. Let's go.
I thought my son invited me to his birthday to reconcile, but when I arrived, I realized the party was a staged ambush, filmed, scripted, and designed to erase me from his life. What happened next took me from a family drama into a dangerous game of survival. Part 1. The invitation I didn't expect. I hadn't heard from my son in months when the text popped up like a lighthouse in fog. "Dad, come to my birthday on Saturday. 6 p.m. would mean a lot. Alex." I read it 3 times. Each passed slower than the last. For years, our conversations were landmines. Ever since he married Maya and her family became the center of gravity. I was the satellite, useful when you needed a weather report, otherwise better kept at a distance. I typed and erased a dozen answers before settling on, "Of course, I'll be there." Seconds later, an email landed in my inbox, an auto confirmation with a calendar invite, a QR code, and a line that felt more corporate than familial. Venue: the Mariner Hall. Dress code: bold colors. Program: speeches and video tribute. There was even a seating chart attached. Who sends a seating chart for a 30-year-old's birthday? I pulled down the old cedar box from my closet, the one that still smells faintly like machine oil and my father's cologne. The vintage watch lay inside, its face clean and stubbornly honest. My father passed it to me the day Alex was born. I planned to pass it to Alex the day we'd stop pretending we didn't miss each other. Maybe Saturday could be that day. On Wednesday, Maya forwarded a house note from the event coordinator. No outside desserts, no personal slideshows, dietary forms due by Friday. It was signed, cordially, Leah, production. Production, not party. Then the small, wrong things began stacking up. The RSVP page had a section labeled Acknowledgement of Filming. The Mariner Hall's website showed a package called Legacy Night, a turnkey service for milestone moments with documentary flair. The sample video on the site? A guest of honor framed by laughter, followed by a not-so-gentle roast from family. It was meant to be funny. It made my stomach feel hollow. Thursday morning, an unknown number sent a single-line message. "If you go, don't go alone." No signature. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. I called back. It rang once and died. I told myself I was being dramatic. Maybe Maya's family just liked structure. Maybe Alex really did want peace, and this was the awkward, neon-lit path to it. That afternoon, a padded envelope slid through my mail slot. No return address. Inside was a place card with my name in looping calligraphy. Victor, Table 7. On the back, in smaller ink, a sentence that knocked the air from me. "Bring the Marseille watch. It belongs on camera." Only 3 people knew the watch came from my father's years in Marseille. 2 are dead. The third is me. I held the card until my fingertips went numb. Someone had been talking about me, about us, off camera, planning beats, props, reactions. Planning me. I put the watch in my jacket pocket anyway. If they wanted a performance, I'd give them one. Just not the one they scripted. On Friday night, before I turned off the light, I texted Alex. "Proud of you. See you tomorrow." He replied with a blue heart and a confetti emoji. Minimalist, safe, distant. I slept badly. In the hour before dawn, I dreamt of a room washed in warm light, a mic stand, and a projector humming like a hive. Laughter swelled and then bent into something sharper. In the dream, I was smiling with my hands in my pockets, feeling the outline of the watch and realizing, too late, that I hadn't walked into a reconciliation. I'd walked into a scene. Part 2. The room full of bright colors and sharp edges. The Mariner Hall smelled faintly of citrus polish and something heavier, stage makeup, maybe. Inside, the lighting was almost theatrical, uplights in jewel tones, shadows drawn sharp across white tablecloths. The walls were lined with oversized portraits of Alex, curated like an art exhibit, each with a tiny caption: leader, survivor, son, Victor over here. Maya's voice sliced through the chatter. She was wearing crimson, the kind of red that photographs like a flame. She kissed my cheek as if we'd been warm friends for years, then gestured to a man with a headset. "This is Owen, our director tonight." "Director?" "Table 7, Owen said, tapping an iPad. "You're with extended family." His smile didn't touch his eyes. "Camera 3 has your angle." My seat was directly under a pendant light, a spotlight without the heat. Across from me sat a man I didn't recognize, thick silver ring, expressionless. "Friend of the family?" I asked. He shook his head. "I'm documenting reactions." On the stage, a mic stand waited, the base marked with tape. Behind it, a screen looped clips from Alex's life, each edited to music that was too loud for conversation. Every so often, a lens would swing toward me, then away, as if I were just another prop waiting for my cue. Alex finally appeared from a side door, flanked by Maya's brothers. He looked good, healthy, confident, but there was a tightness around his eyes. He hugged a few guests, waved to others. When he reached me, the hug was one-armed, brief. "You made it," he said. I said I would. I replied, feeling the watch in my pocket press against my ribs. His gaze flicked down, just for a second, toward that pocket. Then he smiled without warmth and moved on. At 6:45, Owen's voice boomed. 5 minutes to first segment. The lights dimmed further, leaving each table in its own little pool of brightness. In that moment, the silver-ringed man across from me leaned forward and said, almost casually, "They're not here to celebrate him." I stared at him. "Then what are they here for?" He smiled, and for the first time I noticed the scar along his jaw. "To rewrite history, and you're the final chapter." Before I could respond, the room erupted in applause as Maya took the stage. Part 3, the toast that wasn't a toast. Maya stepped into the spotlight, her crimson dress catching the light like it was designed for this exact moment. She held the mic as if she'd been born with it. "Tonight," she began, "we honor Alex. But we also tell the truth." The word truth landed in the room like a glass dropped on tile. The first slide on the projector wasn't Alex as a child, it was me. Younger, thinner, standing beside a beat-up car. The caption, "When Dad was too busy to drive me to school." Laughter rippled through the hall. More slides followed, each carefully framed to paint me as absent, selfish, negligent. One photo of Alex's hospital stay, where I was cropped out entirely. A graduation shot with a big empty space where I'd been standing, like I'd never shown up at all. Every table was watching, but camera 3 lingered on my face. I could feel its gaze, feeding on my stillness. I wanted to speak up, but my instincts screamed, "Don't give them the scene they want." Maya closed her toast, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "To Alex," she said, raising her glass. "And to the family we choose." The clink of glasses echoed like a verdict. Across the table, the silver-ringed man was still watching me. This time, he mouthed 2 words without sound. "Play along." Part 4, the watch on the table. Dinner arrived, plated, symmetrical, too perfect to eat. I moved the fork just to have something in my hands. That's when Maya leaned over from the head table, her voice honeyed for the crowd. "Victor, did you bring it?" I froze. "Bring what?" "The watch," she said louder now. "The one from Marseille." Every head nearby turned. I reached into my pocket and set the cedar box on the table. The light caught the brass latch. Gasps rose from the nearest guests. Maya gestured to a cameraman, who stepped closer. "Let's open it," she suggested sweetly. But before she could touch it, The silver-ringed man reached over and closed his hand around the box. "Not yet," he said. His tone left no space for argument. Maya's eyes narrowed, but she turned back to the crowd, masking her irritation with another smile. "All in good time, everyone." As conversation resumed, the man slid the box back toward me under the tablecloth. "They want it on record," he whispered. "Not because it's valuable, because it proves something." I studied him. "Proves what?" "That you were there," he said. "And that's the problem." The lights shifted, signaling the next segment of the evening. Maya's brothers rose from their seats, flanking the stage. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about embarrassing me. It was about erasing me. Part 5, the segment called Legacy. The lights dimmed until the room was nothing but glowing tables and the pale rectangle of the projector screen. Owen, the headset man, stepped up to the mic. "Our next segment," he announced, "is called Legacy. It's about the people who shaped Alex into the man he is today." A soft piano track started. The first clip was harmless. Alex at 5, blowing out candles. The second, Alex at 12, winning a debate trophy. But by the third, the tone shifted. It was footage I didn't know existed. Me, younger, in my garage, working on the old Buick. Alex's voiceover. This was Dad's world. Cars, grease, not me. The next clip was from his high school graduation. There I was, in the corner of the frame, blurry but visible. The narrator, Alex again, said, "He showed up late, stayed in the back. I think he didn't want to be seen." That was a lie. I'd been in the back because Maya told me Alex was too nervous to have me close. But on the screen, there was no Maya, just me, alone, awkward, uncommitted. The guests murmured. Camera 3 closed in on my face again. Then the final clip began, a close-up of the Marseille watch, sitting on my kitchen counter. The date stamp in the corner was wrong, years wrong. Over it, Alex's voice. He kept it hidden. Said it wasn't for me. Maybe it never was. The silver-ringed man's hand landed on my arm, light but firm. "This," he whispered, "is where they corner you. Don't let them." I glanced at him, trying to read his intent. His eyes stayed fixed on the stage. On screen, the words "Legacy Interrupted" faded in, white over black. Owen stepped forward, smiling as if this was the climax of a love story. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "our guest of honor, Alex." Applause thundered, but all I could hear was the sound of that phrase, "Legacy Interrupted," ringing in my head, and the sudden, cold thought that maybe this wasn't just a party. It might be an execution. Part 6, the whisper behind the applause. The applause was still rolling when the silver-ringed man leaned toward me, his lips barely moving. "They're not just telling a story," he said. "They're building a case." I kept my eyes on the stage, clapping mechanically. "A case for what?" "To erase you," he murmured. "From his life, from his record, maybe from more than that." The roar of the crowd swelled as Alex took the mic. His smile looked practiced, rehearsed down to the tilt of his head. "Thank you for coming," he began, "and thank you for being part of this moment. Tonight is about truth, about letting go of the people who hold us back." A polite laugh rippled through the room. My pulse thudded in my ears. The man's hand was still on the table, close to mine. I noticed his scar again, the way it pulled slightly when he spoke. "They've been filming you for weeks, Victor." Quietly, little bits, taken out of context. "Tonight's not just for the family. It's for an audience you haven't met yet." My stomach tightened. "What audience?" He glanced toward the cameraman, then back at me. "One that decides who gets sympathy and who gets forgotten." Alex was still talking, thanking sponsors, and promising a surprise that will close this chapter for good. The man's gaze locked on mine. "When they call you up there, don't follow their script. They'll try to hand you a mic, don't take it." The applause rose again as Alex gestured toward the tables. "And now, a very important guest, my father." A spotlight hit my face like a punch. Every eye turned. The cameraman moved in. I stood slowly, the cedar box in my hand, feeling the weight of the watch and the weight of something else entirely. Whatever truth the silver-ringed man thought I needed to find. Part 7. The Stage Trap. The spotlight followed me as I walked toward the stage, each step feeling louder than it should. The cedar box in my hand seemed heavier with every foot I closed between us. Alex smiled wide, but it was the kind of smile you put on for a photograph, not for a person. Maya stood just off to the side, her hands clasped, eyes locked on the box. "Dad," Alex said into the mic, "I'm so glad you're here. Everyone, this is the man who, well, I'll let him tell you." He reached out with the microphone. From the corner of my eye, I saw the silver-ringed man, standing now near the side curtain. His head shook once, slow and deliberate. I didn't take the mic. Instead, I stepped up beside Alex, close enough to feel the tension in his shoulders. Before I say anything, I said loudly enough for the nearest guest to hear without touching the mic. "I want to know why my life has been edited into a highlight reel of failures." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Maya stepped forward. "Victor, this is a celebration. No need to get defensive." "No." I cut in, keeping my voice steady. "Celebrations don't need scripts. Or directors. Or," I held up the box, "props." Owen, the headset man, appeared at the edge of the stage, signaling to the cameraman. Alex glanced toward him, then back at me, his expression tightening. "Dad," he said, "just open the box. Please." It wasn't a request. It was a line. I looked straight into his eyes. "Not until you tell me who told you about Marseille." That froze him. The smile cracked. Maya's gaze darted toward the silver-ringed man, then quickly away. And just like that, I knew he wasn't here by accident. Part 8. The Name They Won't Say. The silence after my question was sharp enough to cut. Alex's lips parted, but nothing came out. Maya shifted her weight, her heels clicking against the stage floor in a rhythm too quick to be casual. From the back of the room, the silver-ringed man spoke, loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Tell him, Alex." Heads turned. The cameras swiveled, catching the moment. Owen's hand shot up, signaling someone to cut the feed, but the cameraman nearest the silver-ringed man ignored it. Alex's voice was tight. "This isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," the man said, stepping forward into the light. His face was lined, but his eyes were sharp and unblinking. "Because you've been building this little show on a lie, and you've got everyone here convinced it's the truth." Maya's tone was sugar-coated, but her words had an edge. "Victor, please sit down. You don't know who you're dealing with." I turned toward the man. "Then tell me, who told them about Marseille?" He stopped at the edge of the stage, close enough now that I could see the faint burn mark on the back of his hand. The same person who told them everything else. The one paying for this whole circus. "And who is that?" I pressed. His eyes flicked to Maya, then back to me. "They won't say the name. But I will, if you walk out of here with me right now." Gasps from the crowd. Owen was waving frantically at the lighting crew. The stage lights began to flicker, as if someone was trying to kill the feed entirely. Alex's jaw tightened. "Don't go with him, Dad." The man extended his hand toward me. "Your choice, Victor. Stay, and you're erased. Leave, and you'll learn why they've been erasing you for years." The room seemed to tilt, the noise fading into a dull roar. And then, from behind me, Maya's voice, low, urgent. "If you walk out with him, you won't make it to the car." Part 9. The Walk or the Fall. The man's hand was still outstretched. The cedar box felt like a brick in my palm, the watch inside ticking faintly against the wood. I glanced at Alex. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Maya's stare, on the other hand, was fixed and unblinking, like a predator measuring the distance to its prey. I took a step toward the edge of the stage. The silver-ringed man nodded once, the smallest flicker of relief crossing his face. Then it happened. Two of Maya's brothers moved from the side, casual in posture but deliberate in their approach. One positioned himself between me and the nearest steps. The other stepped just close enough to place a hand, light, almost polite, on my arm. "Careful, Victor," he murmured. "Wouldn't want you to trip." The crowd thought it was part of the show. Some even laughed. Owen didn't. His eyes darted between us, calculating. I tried to sidestep, but the brothers' grip tightened. The silver-ringed man moved closer, his voice low but urgent. "They're not going to let you leave clean. You need to." The rest of his sentence was swallowed by a sudden blast of feedback from the speakers. The lights flared, blinding for a second, and in that flash I felt the push, not hard, but enough to send me off balance toward the edge of the stage. Gasps erupted. Someone shouted my name. My knee buckled as I caught the corner of the podium, the cedar box nearly slipping from my grasp. When my vision cleared, the silver-ringed man had a hand under my elbow, steadying me. His voice was a whisper in my ear. "Now you know what you're dealing with. You still want to walk?" I looked out at the sea of faces, half curious, half hungry, and realized the choice wasn't between walking and staying. It was between walking and falling. Part 10. The exit no one planned. The silver-ringed man's grip on my arm was firm, but not forceful, like he was ready to move the second I decided. Maya's brothers were still blocking the steps, their smiles rehearsed, their eyes hard. The crowd was buzzing now, cameras swiveling like vultures following a wounded animal. Owen kept making frantic gestures to the crew, but whatever was happening on stage had already escaped his control. I straightened slowly, holding the cedar box high enough for everyone to see. "Since we're talking about legacy," I said loudly, "let's make this part of it." That caught them off guard. Alex hesitated, clearly unsure whether to let me speak or cut me off. Maya's hand twitched, as if she was about to signal the cameraman. I stepped toward the edge of the stage, not toward the blocked stairs, but toward the side where one of the smaller tables was set up. The guests there were leaning forward, curious. "This watch," I continued, "has been in my family for 3 generations. And tonight, I want to give it to someone who actually values truth." A murmur swept through the hall. I turned toward the silver-ringed man. "Hold it for me," I said, tossing him the box before anyone could react. He caught it cleanly, no hesitation. The brothers moved toward him, but I spoke into the nearest mic stand before they could take another step. "By the way, this entire evening is being streamed, not just to family. Check your phones." A ripple of motion went through the crowd as guests pulled out their devices. Within seconds, gasps erupted. Whatever Owen's plan had been, the stream was no longer under his control. The silver-ringed man gave me a quick nod, then slipped into the crowd, the cedar box under his arm. The brothers hesitated. Chasing him would mean turning their backs to the cameras, and that would look bad. I walked off the opposite side of the stage, through a narrow service corridor I'd spotted earlier. The applause behind me was confused, scattered, half the guests thinking this was some planned twist, the other half realizing it wasn't. By the time anyone figured out what was happening, I was already outside, the cold night air biting my face. And somewhere in the dark, the man with the silver ring was waiting, with the watch and, I hoped, the truth. Part 11. The Handoff in the Shadows. The street outside Mariner Hall was slick from a light drizzle, the pavement glowing under the orange halos of the street lamps. I spotted him leaning against a dark sedan, the cedar box tucked under one arm like a football. "You move fast for someone they were about to corner," he said. I walked up, still catching my breath. "And you move fast for someone I've never met." He opened the box just enough for me to see the watch inside, still safe. "We don't have long. They'll realize I'm gone in about 90 seconds. Then tell me," I said, "who's behind this?" He glanced up and down the street before answering. The name you're looking for is Ronan Hale. The name hit me like a cold wave. Ronan was a former business partner, one I hadn't seen in over 15 years. We'd parted ways after a nasty legal dispute. I thought it was buried. He's funding Maya's family, the man continued. Quietly. Everything tonight. Paid for by him. Not for Alex's benefit. Hale doesn't care about your son. This was about destroying your credibility before a court date you don't even know is coming. My mind was spinning. Court date. He nodded. There's a land trust in Marseille, property you don't even know you own. Hale's been trying to claim it, but your name is still on the deed. Tonight was meant to brand you as unstable, unreliable. By next month, he files for control on grounds of family concern. The drizzle turned to rain, cold needles on my face. Why tell me now? He shrugged. I don't like him. And I owed your father a favor. Before I could ask more, headlights swept the corner. A black SUV slowed, its windows tinted. The man snapped the box shut and pressed it into my hands. Don't go home, he said sharply. And whatever you do, don't let them get the watch. The SUV's doors opened. 2 figures stepped out. Go, the silver-ringed man barked. Now, I turned and ran into the rain. The cedar box clutched tight, my mind full of a name I hadn't spoken in years. To be continued in Part 12, The Chase Through Empty Streets. Part 12, The Chase Through Empty Streets. The rain made the pavement slick, every step a gamble between speed and balance. Behind me, the SUV's doors slammed and boots hit the ground. Voices, low, urgent, cut through the night air. I clutched the cedar box tight against my chest and ducked into a narrow side street. The sound of the SUV's engine revving echoed off the wet brick walls. They weren't just following, they were hurting me. I kept moving, my lungs burning, shoes slipping on the uneven cobblestones. At the far end of the alley, a lone street lamp flickered. I reached it, turned left, straight into a dead-end loading bay. Footsteps closed in. I spun around, scanning for any way out. A rusted fire escape clung to the side of the building, its lowest rung still 8 feet up. I dropped the box just long enough to drag a trash bin under it, climbed, and hauled myself up, my hands slick with rain. Below, 2 figures stepped into the light. One of them was Maya's brother. His crimson tie was soaked, plastered against his shirt, but his grin was dry and sharp. Victor, he called, you've got something that isn't yours. I kept climbing. You'll have to prove that in court. That's the idea, he said, voice carrying easily in the rain. A sudden crack split the air, metal hitting metal. I looked down just in time to see the other man pull something from his jacket. Not a gun. A camera. The flash went off, blinding me for a second. I realized then, they weren't trying to catch me tonight. They were collecting footage. Every stumble, every desperate glance over my shoulder, every frame that could be spun into a narrative. I reached the roof and scrambled over the ledge, breathing hard. The city stretched out around me, glistening under the rain. Somewhere out there, the silver-ringed man had answers. Somewhere out there, Ronan Hale was already moving the next piece of his game. And I was starting to understand. This wasn't about a birthday or even the watch. This was about erasing me from more than my son's life. It was about erasing me entirely. Part 13, The Call That Changes Everything. I crossed the rooftop, the rain now a steady curtain between me and the rest of the city. The cedar box felt heavier than before, as if the watch inside had absorbed all the tension of the last hour. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment, I almost ignored it, until I saw the location tag under the call, Marseille, France. I answered. Victor. A woman's voice came through, low and urgent. You don't know me, but I knew your father. He told me if anything ever happened, I was to call you with one word. I hesitated. What word? Basilisk. The sound of it hit me harder than I expected. My father used to tell me stories about a basilisk project, a code name from his days in Europe. I always thought it was one of his tall tales. What does it mean? I asked. It means, she said, the watch you're holding isn't just a watch. Inside the casing is a key, an actual key, that opens a safety vault in Marseille. And in that vault is enough to ruin Ronan Hale forever. I glanced toward the edge of the rooftop, half expecting to see shadows moving below. Then why didn't my father tell me himself? He didn't trust you'd be safe until now, she replied. But you're running out of time. Hale already knows you have it. If they take that watch before you get to Marseille. She trailed off. In the silence, I could hear something faint in the background. Wind, gulls, the sound of the sea. Then your father dies a second time, she finished. The line went dead. I stood there, the rain seeping into my jacket, phone still in my hand. For the first time, I understood this wasn't just about saving my name. It was about finishing something my father had started decades ago. Part 14, The Last Safe Place. By the time I reached street level, the rain had eased to a mist, but the city still gleamed like it had been varnished in tension. I ducked into a shuttered cafe's doorway, shielding the cedar box from the damp as I pulled out my phone. Flights to Marseille. Earliest departure, tomorrow night. Too far away. Too much time for Hale's people to catch up. I thought about calling Alex, just to hear his voice, to see if any part of this night had shaken his loyalty to Maya. But the image of him on that stage, smiling while my life was dismantled, stopped me cold. I booked under a false name, using an old contacts travel network. No credit cards. Cash only. My plan was simple. Get to a safe house on the edge of the city, wait for the ticket pickup in the morning, and keep the watch hidden until I was on foreign soil. But there was no safe left in this city. Every streetlight felt like an interrogation lamp, every passing car like a slow scan of my existence. At the safe house, a nondescript apartment over a laundromat, I locked the door, drew the blinds, and set the cedar box on the table. I thought about opening it, just to see the key the woman had mentioned. But I didn't. Not yet. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text. From Alex. Dad, we need to talk. Alone. No emojis. No warmth. Just 4 words that could mean a lifeline or a trap. I typed a reply, then erased it. My hand hovered over the send button, the weight of the watch in the box pressing on me like a verdict. For the first time, I realized that trusting my own son might be the one move I couldn't afford. Part 15, The Flight or the Fall. The night pressed in close around the laundromat apartment, the hum of the machines below a faint mechanical heartbeat. I sat at the table, the cedar box between my hands, Alex's message still glowing on my phone screen. Every option felt like a trap. If I met him, I risked walking straight into Maya's hands, or worse, Hale's. If I ignored him, I might be cutting off my last chance to reach my son before the damage was permanent. At 2:17 a.m., headlights swept across the blinds. I froze, listening. A car idled outside for several seconds, then pulled away. My pulse didn't slow until it was gone. Finally, I made a decision. I grabbed the cedar box, slid it into my backpack, and left through the back exit into the narrow alley. The rain had stopped, but the streets still shone like liquid glass. At the bus station, I bought a one-way ticket to the coast under the false name. My plan was to catch a ferry to Spain, then on to Marseille. I kept scanning the crowd, every unfamiliar face a possible tale. 10 minutes before departure, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Alex. I know about Hale. I can help. I stared at the words, trying to read the truth in them. The boarding announcement echoed through the terminal. The driver glanced at me. You getting on or not? I stepped toward the bus, the cedar box a solid weight against my spine. Then, behind me, a voice, calm, certain, and far too close. Victor, choose carefully. I turned. Alex was standing there, no smile, no hostility, just watching me with an expression I couldn't read. The driver called again. Last call. I looked between my son and the open bus door. My foot hovered over the first step, and then I chose. The bus pulled away into the night. Whether I was on it or still standing in that terminal, that's something only I know.
Thank you for listening to my story. I'm truly glad you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them.